Welcome everyone to Flyover Footy. My name is Matt Baker, here with a report on St. Louis City SC's pregame press conference ahead of their March 2nd match against NYCFC, their second in the MLS season. We heard today from Bradley Carnell, head coach, as well as Chris Durkin, midfielder, who gave us a range of answers on a variety of topics. Bradley Carnell started it off with player availability. He spoke about how they're still evaluating Josh Yaro and Tim Parker. He said they will not have Kyle Hebert available. And he referenced Joachim Nilsson responding well to treatment, but saying there's nothing overall wrong with him. He's crediting the training staff with doing an admirable job, as well as Joachim Nilsson, in regenning his body, able to go back from Saturday to Tuesday. But regarding the injury, or the reason for substitution rather, Bradley Carnell downplayed it. Nicholas Dewar, our left back, who we haven't seen yet play in a regular season match, Bradley Carnell said, first you have to get up to speed and intensity after Dewar had a 2-month layoff before signing with City SC, and then you have to get your own fitness level up. Bradley Carnell said over the last 2 or 3 training sessions, Nicholas Dewar has done that, and now the door is open for him to be in contention to play. Rasmus Alm trained with the team today and looked like he had never left, according to Bradley Carnell. He came out flying, and we had to tell him to calm down, but that's Rasmus, as Coach Carnell said. Carnell said he was chasing the ball around like the first day that they had him signed, and though Rasmus Alm was progressing well, according to Coach Carnell, he will not be a candidate to play against NYCFC. Every threshold's being set, and they're ensuring that he's progressing. So some of the takeaways were Tim Parker is ahead of Josh Yaro in their overall recovery from injuries. Nicholas Dewar is working his fitness up, so the door is open to play, and Rasmus Alm is still out, as well as Kyle Hebert still out. Bradley Carnell's assessment of the first 3 games so far, they try to compare themselves to themselves, he said. They have a lot of energy. They're showing in the first 2 games, they showed glimpses of what they can do, according to Coach Carnell. The counter-pressing, the actions around the ball are higher than last year when they look at the metrics. And taking out that second game against Houston, Carnell said that their PPDA, which is a passes per defensive action number that measures the effectiveness of your press, with the higher being better, was higher than last year in those first 2 games. Not looking back, but that last Houston game did say, Bradley Carnell, that they let themselves down in that department, PPDA, but they didn't see the signature of their team in that game. Regarding the back line, Bradley Carnell said they had great contributions so far. They haven't given up as many hard counters as they did last season. They had some big saves by Roman Berkey, especially at the end of the first half of the Houston game this week. And they've seen an overall improvement, and they've thrown guys like Jake Nerwinski in at center back and Michael Wenzel coming from City 2, a lot of that being to plug a hole with a Band-Aid, as Bradley Carnell said, and everyone's committed to getting over this hump together. I asked Bradley Carnell how he sees the midfield in both ball progression and overall effectiveness as they came out of that loss against Houston.
I thought there were some moments where, we're looking to combine in short, tight spaces, and we're looking to be us. And then, obviously, our bread and butter is the transition, right? So, the whole of last year, we had 5.5 shots in our transition phases on average per game. Over the first 2 games, the Champions League against Houston, against RSL, we had 7 shots in the transition phase. So, thinking about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve in those moments, we're up from last year's averages, and last year was pretty a high standard. So, against Houston, it went down to 2 in the transition. So, again, a day and night difference from the 3 games, from the Houston game to the first 2 competitive games that we played this year. And we're measuring, obviously, the sort of talking points, what we're looking for through preseason. We look at the preseason stuff. We were very competitive, played some good teams and really, put things on our terms and in our way, right? So, yes, there's a lot to work on, for sure. There's a lot of rust there, and we're working through these things. But I would be, a lot more unhappy if we weren't getting into the final third entries, box entries. We see Thomas Ostrak getting twice, against Houston. We have Sam going twice alone with the goalkeeper. We have moments, right, where, we make these opportunities count. And then we have a totally different conversation sitting right here. So I think it's on that edge, so we're very early in preseason, and we're still ironing out those kinks.
I also had a chance to ask Coach Carnell about a hot topic in the fan base, which is Sam Adeniran and João Klauss partnership in the front striking formation, the 4-4-2 or the 4-2-3-1, as Carnell alluded to, and how Bradley Carnell sees them playing off of each other and what their roles are.
Yeah, sometimes we use Klauss as a little bit deeper. We can operate at a 4-2-3-1 with Klauss in the 10 spot. We can use him as a second striker, whether it was the diamond or 4-4-2. We did that against Houston, with the tight schedule that we did have. We try to, limit them in as much as we could, but we also needed them as much as we needed them, right? So still trying to find the balance of, the scheduling and how how much and how long we can push these guys without any accumulative fatigue setting in, right? So because that's what we try to mitigate, and both those guys have done a hell of a job. But I think there's in every department, there's one or two things that we're looking at where we're trying to get better than we obviously need to be. Because we've had long, honest, hard looks, and the game that we've last played was not really didn't look and feel right, and that's the biggest takeaway for us.
Midfielder Chris Durkin was next, speaking to making the great partnerships that he has in the midfield so far and just overall getting some of that rust out. Chris Durkin alluded to the energy being there in the club and saying that once they get things a little bit better, they're going to be flying. And then Durkin also alluded to the depth of the roster and how everyone has been brought in. They're serving an important role. Energy has been good, and the guys are stepping up when they need to. Durkin mentioned that it's frustrating that they didn't progress in the Champions Cup, but overall happy with how things are moving along. And with NYCFC approaching this weekend, Chris Durkin played against them twice last year as a member of DC United, including scoring a goal. And he did say that they play well on the ball, looking to scout NYCFC a little bit. Talented players with the ball they have over there, trying to build out, and it feels like City will match up well against them. I had a chance to ask Chris Durkin about the partnerships that he alluded to in both midfield and elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it's continue to find that balance. I think working with Tomas and Jose and Jabs and Edu, all different types of players, and it's about how I can complement them. I'm a guy that wants to help complement the other guy, so I like doing the dirty work, and I like doing anything to help cover for other guys. And I think it's about continuing to progress on the ball. I think I definitely can get sharper on the ball, and that's I think goes for everybody. I think we all need to get better on the ball, especially with our tilts and in our possession phase. I think we can be a little bit sharper, but that goes along with a bit of the rust that we're talking about, and continuing to develop those partnerships because we haven't had a ton of games together, but I know that the ideas are there, and it's just about continuing to gain more confidence in those tighter areas where it takes a lot more quality.
The season is still very young, with this only being our second MLS matchup coming. So I also asked Chris Durkin how he feels the team's progressing coming out of preseason and what some of the things he's learned as they've started the season have been.
I mean, it's always, I think, difficult coming back into the league because there's such a long break. Coming out of DC and not making the playoffs, it's almost 2 months of not playing another competitive game. So you're both, when you feel that energy within the stadium or getting onto the field, you kind of have to get back into the swing of things again. And I think that's progressing, but it's always hard having that really long stop period and getting back into game speed. So I think looking back on the whole preseason, I thought it was really good, and I think we should take more confidence from some of those games that we had and try and apply more of that into the games that actually matter.
That's all for now. Thank you for joining me on this pregame press conference report on Flyover Footy. Be sure to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts. Follow us on our social medias at Flyover Footy. My name is Matt Baker, and we'll talk to you soon.